Hi, my name is Ann Sermons Gillis, and I am a member of Unity of Charleston. Today, we have another episode of Meet the Members, and I think you'll be very happy to meet one of our newer members who also was in the same new member class as I was. Welcome today to Julia Andres. Welcome, Julia.
Welcome, Anne. Nice to see you.
Glad you're here. Now, where were you born? Where did you start out in this life?
Well, I was born in Cuba, and I was there until the age of 12, where I left for Spain with 51 other children without parents. We were just were sent on what was supposed to be a vacation, but the parents knew that that we were leaving the country because the political situation was really bad.
And so you got to Spain, and then what happened?
Well, my father was already in the United States in New York with my two brothers. So I just had to wait for whatever time it was required for them to get me registered to school in New York. And then once I had the acceptance of the school, then I was able to come to the United States.
So how old did you say you were then?
I was 12.
12. And when you're that old, are you called a defector when you leave a country like that and don't come back?
Well, I believe, and I really don't know whether this is true or not, but it had to do with the family had left the country. And I was left behind because they were starting the Young Communist, and I was at top of the class at the time, and they wanted to recruit me. So I'm fortunate enough, KLM started doing, or Holland started doing business with Cuba. And the first thing they did was to have this vacation for children, and knowing very well that we were not coming back.
Good. Well, so you got to New York, and then did you grow up in New York, or did you move somewhere from there?
Yes, I went from Spain. I spent a year or so in Spain, and then went to New York, and I did all my schooling in New York. I was there through college, and I got my job, and I lived in New York until 2019 when I moved to South Carolina.
Did you move to the Charleston area then?
Yes.
And what brought you here to this area?
Well, I had my career was in global banking, and after many years, I was burnt out because I never knew how long I was going to be anywhere. And I left banking, and I stayed in New York for a while, but I ended up having more friends in Charleston that I had in New York. And yes, and I just falling in love with the city very long time ago. Like, I think it was in the 80s, my first time I was in Charleston, and I really fell in love with it. There was something about the energy here that just, I was always attracted to it.
Well, great. And so where do you live now in the Charleston area?
I live in Mount Pleasant, very close to Isle of Palm.
Right, Isle of Palms. Now, when you were in New York, did you retire when you still lived in New York and came here fully retired, or did you work after you got here?
No, I quit, and that was it. I came here to enjoy the rest of my life.
Well, are you married or single or partnered?
I am divorced.
Divorced, okay.
Yes.
Do you have any children?
No.
No children.
Fortunate to have a lot of cousins, nephews, and nieces, and very busy family life. Most of them in Miami, by the way.
Okay. Well, do you get to visit them often?
Very often, and they come to visit here.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So you have two nice places to be, to vacation and to live.
Yeah.
How did you begin your spiritual search?
That's a very good question. It's a long story that I'm going to try to make short. Friends of mine were visiting New York, and they asked me if we want to go out for brunch. And I said yes, but they were going to go to Unity, New York, before the brunch. And I had an interesting episode while I was there at the time of meditation. I had been meditating for a very long time. And that day I could not see the image that I have been meditating for many, many years. And I walked out of the church and I said, this, what I was seeing to me represents death, and it is my death. So, so I was just feeling well, came to Charleston with a friend of mine, and I got a cold that was not going away. When I went to New York, back to New York, my doctor sent me to a pulmonologist, and I had cancerous nodules. So they were found that cancer as they were turning into cancer. So stage 1, which is a miracle.
So with that you say nodules, do you mean, was that thyroid?
No, it was my my lungs.
Lungs, okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. I feel that I owe my life to Unity, because that day, what I felt was clear what it was. I was not afraid, but I was clear that what it meant. And I've been going, that's the other thing. Most of my friends in New York who have come here, they were already members of Unity.
So you went to Unity in New York, and when you came here, you found it.
Yep.
And so that you found it. Now, you said you were meditating for a long time. So I'm thinking that might have been more the start of your spiritual search. When did you start meditating? How did that come about?
No, this is really funny, because it was nothing to do with my spiritual life. I think it had to do more with stress than anything else.
Stress?
Yes, my career was, half of my career was for Citibank Global, and then the rest of it was for JP Morgan. And while I was at Citibank, I guess the executives were already stressed out, and they put us through meditation training. So many years later, I had left Citibank, I had joined JP Morgan, and I was exhausted because my career was insane. And that's when it happened. So for many years, I have been, quiet. There's an image in my mind that I always was able to access to it. And this time I wasn't. It had been, I would say, 12 years that I had been doing this. And that day I could not. All I could see was darkness. It was like an black egg with yellows and blood. Don't ask me why I assumed there was death, but that was the feeling that came to me when I was sitting there.
Let me get the timeline straight. When you were sitting there in Unity,
mm-hmm.
And so you felt like you were facing death, and then so what did you at that point? What did you do? Did you go to the doctor at that point because you had that vision? Is that what you're saying?
That was prompting me, because I was having I have allergies about everything. So I was sneezing and whatever. And I said, let me go to the doctor and see what this is. And she has seen me for a long time. And she said, you're very healthy. I don't know what it is, but let's check your lungs, see what's going on. And that started it all.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's very interesting. Most people start meditating as a spiritual search, but you started to relieve stress.
Mm-hmm.
Which of course we know that it relieves stress, it helps other things like mental clarity, memory. There's so many benefits of meditation. And of course, another benefit of that is that when our minds are quiet, we have the ability to begin to tune into our authentic self.
Yes.
So that would be an unexpected benefit that someone who went into meditation for stress reasons might find more than they were seeking, more than they bargained for.
Yeah, the spiritual life, I had been seeking, but I had not found anything that would really was benefit to my soul. I'm a student of Eckhart Tolle, Joe Dispenza, you name it. I've read them and I've read them. So, but there was an emptiness in my life. Originally Catholic, supposed to be Catholic. I left the church very early on, and thankfully my parents never pushed her. But in New York, it was difficult to find a place, so I ended up going to Norman Peale's church.
Mm-hmm. Marble Collegiate, yeah.
Yeah, the Marvin Collegiate on 29th Street. And I think that was the start, because I did find a place that people were more like me. They were global, a lot of people from the UN, and they were finding the ways in New York. So, yeah.
So were you there when he was preaching?
No, unfortunately not. It was Dr. Calandio, which also passed away. And he was fabulous, fabulous.
Well, now, so you've been at this a little while, and you've gone through an illness, and you've healed that, I assume. Is that
Yes.
correct? Yes.
Oh,
And so now I'm suspecting you must have a philosophy of life. What would you say your philosophy of life is now?
my philosophy of life has been since I was very, very young. And I always say I get up in the morning and I'm grateful for everything in my life. But I've always been driven by the word carpe diem. Carpe diem, you seize the moment, enjoy the day, be the best. Since I was alone in Spain, that I will get up in the morning with just that in mind. Just seize the moment, just carpe diem. And it continues to this day.
I think a lot of people have used that philosophy, carpe diem.
Yes.
It's a wonderful thing because we really can't seize yesterday and we can't seize tomorrow. So carpe diem.
Exactly.
It's like right now. It's really only now.
Yes, particularly when you're 12 years old and you know nothing, but you have the opportunity to learn and grow and open your eyes. You're in a different country, different culture. It's a lot to learn. So I will get up every morning with carpe diem.
Yeah, that is great. Well, you already mentioned a couple of people, Eckhart Tolle, Joe Dispenza. Would you say that they're your favorite authors, or do you have anyone else that you follow or like?
Oh, Gary Zuka. It's another one, and the other one is I always mess up his name somewhere. So there's a lot of other people like Rumi.
Is there a particular book that has guided you in any way, or books?
Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, which is very much carpe diem.
Absolutely. Was that one of your first books that you read when you went on your search?
Yes.
It was a good one to start with.
Yes, and by the way, the funny thing is that while I was at JP Morgan, they were also encouraging people to read, and we had someone that came to the office and talked to us about the power of now, and we got this thing that whenever we were in meetings and things were not, we would tell each other, just be here now, let's just deal now. And that went on for, I would say, at least a year, where that was very common among the management team.
So they had someone talk to them about the power of now, just the book or the theory?
The book and the theory.
Yeah, the book, which would have the theory, but there have been, of course, before Eckhart Tolle wrote his book, there was, we were also espousing the power of now, but that book was really it was on the bestseller list for weeks and weeks. And when I saw that book had been on the bestseller list, I was astounded because it meant to me that the mainstream of this country had formally entered the spiritual journey.
Yes, and what is funny, I totally agree with you. When I saw that a global bank, had bought the books, got us training, brought people to speak to us about that's when I said we are becoming human. That was my feeling, because the world of business is not very human, and the world of banking is not human at all. But this was one thing that it made me stop and rethink things, some of the assumptions that I had made regarding that world.
Well, sometimes the boardroom and the employee level are different because the big corporations do often treat their employees really well, but they may not make choices that are the best for everyone. They have that bottom line to fulfill, and they take that a little bit too seriously, I think.
Yes, it is.
Oh, do you have any passions or hobbies?
Well, yes, reading is one of my biggest passion. The other thing is I grew up in a world of banking. My passion has always been architecture, interior design, and that is my little hobby on the side. And the latest thing is it's my all my flowers, my turtles, my I spend most of my time outdoors. You know, I have the beach very close to me, so I have become more and more. If addicted is a word to use in this case, I become addicted just to being out and enjoying the flowers, the the animals and all of that.
Well, that is a valid spiritual path, the path of nature.
I talk to my plants. I thank them every day. You probably have seen some hydrangeas around
Yeah,
Unity.
yes.
All of them have come from my garden. And I come back and I tell them how wonderful it was at church, and I do the same with the turtles that come and eat out of my hands.
You have turtles at your house?
I have a pond in the back,
Mhm.
so this area we all have water in the back.
You have plenty of turtles, and the turtles come right up to you.
Yes, they do. Once they hear your voice, you start talking to them and calling them, and they come.
Ah,
Yeah.
what do they eat?
Well, it's funny you ask, because initially I thought I would eat lettuce and things like that, and they would not. So now I just buy, I get either chicken or I get frankfurters, and I just put put them out there, stand my hands, and they come and eat it out of my hands. So
The turtle path.
yes, exactly, my turtle
Yes,
bath.
I think that's what we called, the Native Americans called this country Turtle Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Turtle Island. So you found your niche of Turtle Island. Well, do you have any spiritual practices? You have mentioned meditation. Do you still practice meditation? And do you have any other practices?
Mm, no, I think meditation and praying it's are the two things that I find myself doing every day.
Prayer and meditation, very powerful aspects of the spiritual life.
Yes.
Well, do you have any advice or any last thought that you would like to leave us with?
Well, if it is regarding unity, I would say that I encourage everyone just to explore it, because some people have the idea that it's a religion like any others, and it's just to be. It is a very human place where wonderful people go there to feed their soul, in and it happens. So I would say, come and join us.
Yes,
The more the merry.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Julia, so much for being with us today. Take care, and we'll see you in church.
Thank you, Nan. Thank you. Bye.